Welcome, bienvenue to everyone who's just joining in right now. We're just giving it a couple more minutes till we get started. All right, so it looks like we just have a few more people coming in. I'm gonna just start my presentation then. And in the minute it takes me to set up, we should have more people join in and we should be good to go. So I will share that now. Okay, is that clear to everyone? You can all see what I'm sharing. Okay, sounds good then. Then we'll get started. So, hello, welcome everyone to our Measurement Month Partners webinar. Bonjour et bienvenue tout le monde à notre webinaire pour des partenaires du mois de la mesure. So, like I said, this is our partners webinar. Just a note before I start diving in, more of the slides for this presentation are bilingual, but I'll mostly be speaking in English. That said, I'm happy to take questions at the end in either English or French. Une petite note avant de commencer. Au cours de cette présentation, je m'exprimerai principalement en anglais. Toutefois, les diapositives sont bilingues et je suis heureux de répondre aux questions en français à la fin de présentation. So to give a bit more context on this specific webinar, this is the partners webinar for Measurement Month 2024. Back in November, back in November, we hosted another webinar that was more of a general information session. This one is going to focus a bit more on the logistics of being a Measurement Month partner, but we'll still give a quick overview of the initiative just as a refresher for returning partners and for new partners. I'm seeing a lot of new faces who are maybe just hearing about the initiative for the first time or interested in participating for the first time, which is always great. And just before we start, we'll just do a land acknowledgement. So Northern Policy Institute would like to acknowledge the First Peoples on whose traditional territories we live and work. We're grateful for the opportunity to have our offices located on these lands, and we thank all of the generations of people who have taken care of this land. Each community across Northern Ontario, MPI serves across Northern Ontario, is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. For example, I'm here on Kirkland Lake today, and Kirkland Lake's on the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory, and the land is the traditional territory of Cree, Ojibwe, and Algonquin peoples, as well as Beaver House First Nation. MPI recognizes and appreciates the historic connections that Indigenous peoples have to these territories, and we support their efforts to sustain and grow their nations and recognize the contributions they've made in shaping and strengthening local communities, the province, and Canada. So jumping into the presentation a bit more, what is Measurement Month? What Measurement Month is an effort to leverage our individual resources to collect consistent, comparable data via surveys across Northern Ontario to inform decision-making at the local level, the regional level, the provincial level, and the national level. So what Measurement Month really came out of is a few years ago, we were finding individual communities were doing a lot of their own surveys individually, which were valuable, but there was, I guess, one of the things that limited the use of these surveys is one, they were different in every community. So it was hard to compare between communities. It was hard to say, is Timmins doing better than Thunder Bay, for example? It was also the case that a lot of these surveys were being done as a one-off, which still provides some value, but there is an added benefit in doing the same surveys every year or every 2 years over a decade or so to see how trends have changed. That's the focus of a lot of these surveys. We're not just trying to take a picture at a point in time. We're trying to understand what are the trends in Northern Ontario over the decade on issues like racism, reconciliation, individual well-being, employer preparedness, etc. So that's really the benefit of this, I guess, this collective initiative in Northern Ontario led by MPI. These surveys are going to be open from February 1st to February 22nd, so 3 weeks in February for people to fill them out. And then what are the specific surveys for 2024? So this year we're going to have 4 surveys. The first is the Experiences with Racism survey, which we also ran 2 years ago, back in 2022. And that survey is looking at the individual experiences and perceptions of racism in Northern Ontario community. So that's getting the attitudes of people from all backgrounds about what they feel the state of race relations are in their community, how often they witness racism, what specific forms around locations of racism are most prevalent, those sorts of general trends in Northern Ontario. Then we have the Individual Wellbeing Survey that's looking at various dimensions of individual well-being for people across Northern Ontario. So that's looking at people's physical well-being, their social and emotional well-being, mental well-being, etc.
Sure.
Okay. Then there's the New Arrival Survey, which is looking at the experiences of individuals who've recently moved to a Northern Ontario community. Sorry, let me just. Okay, should be good. Measuring and assessing the experiences of individuals who've recently moved to a Northern Ontario community. And that can be people moving from another country, people moving from outside of Northern Ontario, even people moving from one community in Northern Ontario to another. We want to understand what makes communities welcoming to newcomers, where people are, what people are seeing as the benefits of their community, and also any limitations they have in access and supports when they're moving to another community. Then finally, there's the Employer Survey, and that's looking at the preparedness of employers to meet the unique needs of immigrants and diverse groups. So that's generally questions about how employers are prepared, their human resource policies, what internal resources they have available, and also questions about what sort of help they'd like to have from settlement service agencies, the federal and provincial immigration departments, etc., and being able to better welcome employees either from other countries or diverse groups within Northern Ontario to have one, more inclusive workspaces, and to two, better take advantage of the full labor force in Northern Ontario. So, having given that context on Measurement Month generally, I'm going to talk a bit more about the role that partners play. So, when we look for people to promote, I use the general term partner for both promote and partnering, but we also do make a slight distinction. So, your role, if you're interested in helping with Measurement Month, could be to simply promote the survey on social media, on your website, in your newsletter, or any other regular communications you distribute. Whether that's just sharing a link, sharing some of the promotional language we provide as well. MPI does our own distribution work, reaching out to our network. We do a bit of advertisement, but really we don't have as strong a reach in every single community as you, the individual partners, do. You have better connections with your networks, the people you serve, the people you work directly with. So having partners able to promote the survey across Northern Ontario is really helpful for, one, generating total response rates, and two, for making sure your community is represented. Then we say partner on a survey. So that's a little bit more involved. But beyond just promoting it and sharing the link, if you can do individual outreach to clients and contacts and try to encourage them to respond, we find that really helps. MPI does some of that work herself, but again, it's if you're the organization that someone interacts with, they're much more likely to be receptive to someone they know reaching out to them as opposed to an MPI researcher who they haven't interacted with before. Um, and again, I provide my email a few times in the slide, but if you're interested, definitely reach out to me and reach out to MPI. We're always happy to work with you to do whatever we can to help promote these surveys. And then a bit more on what we ask partners to do. And this is not a requirement to do any of this. Any and all help is welcome, but this is just an overview of things you can do to promote Measurement Month. So follow up 1 week after we launch, do another promotional push. We often have the first few days, we get a lot of responses and that quiets down. Then we need to start doing, follow-ups because it's 3 weeks. So you can lose that attention and momentum if you're not making consistent efforts to promote the initiative. And then finally, you can await findings. So MPI analyzes the data for our reports, and we can also provide you with anonymized data for your region or whatever group you serve if we have sufficient response rates. So, for example, if you're a municipality and you wanted to partner with us on, say, the employer survey, if we get responses from enough employers in your municipality, we can share with you some of the data we got, provided we have enough responses that we can do it without, having any excessive privacy or confidentiality risks. Normally, you're looking at about 20 to 25 respondents in whatever region you're interested in for us to be able to share data with you. But if you're able to help boost response rates and get to those numbers, we're very happy to provide you with some individualized data. And the benefits of Measurement Month. So I already went to the first about the alignment of the data collection efforts. So like I said earlier, the real benefit of this initiative is that instead of everyone doing their own surveys, which is being done at the same time with same questions, which means we can compare between communities and we can compare across time. It also opens up greater opportunities for subgroup analysis. So, for example, if you want in a survey to not only look at, say, the city of Sudbury, but you want to look at francophones in Sudbury, having multiple groups involved in the survey and boosting response rates helps with that. So we're better able to dive into specific demographic groups than a more localized survey initiative would be able to. The other benefit is MPI will prepare the message and the graphics. When we ask people to help promote and partner on the surveys, we can give you materials you can use to help promote, and you can, if you wish, you can simply copy what we provide to you. We're also, if you're willing to be a partner, we can promote your organization's logo on our master survey landing page, and you'll also be listed as a partner in our annual reports. And then finally, as I also mentioned before, we will analyze the data and we can provide you with anonymized data for your region if we get enough responses. So, what are the specific materials we provide to partners? One is surveys, so obviously we give you the survey link so you can send it to people. We also give you social media language and graphics, as well as language you can use for distribution. I'll show a couple examples a bit later in the presentation. Then we can also give you a list of suggested targeted respondents. So as our survey responses come in, I'll be keeping an eye on what communities or what regions are we getting lower responses in? What demographic groups are we struggling to get responses for? We can follow up with you and tell you it would be really helpful for our initiative if you're able to get higher responses, say, from francophones in Timmins, just as an example. And that's so we're very willing to be involved with helping to, with a deeper partnership to target the people we need to have as representative of a sample as possible. And then finally, again, post-survey we can send you results if we have sufficient ones, and we'll do the analysis for the reports. We've published reports from the first Measurement Month in 2022. We have a number of reports published on our website if you're interested in seeing them. We have an employer reports published already. We have a few experiences with racism reports, and then there's a few others as well. And then finally, just to note that all the promotional materials are simply a resource if you wish to use them. You're definitely free if you wish to create your own messaging to tailor to your own networks. You know your region, the people you work with better than we do. So if you feel that you can tailor the language to, I guess, appeal more to that target group, definitely feel free to. But you're also welcome to just copy our language if you wish. We have no issue with that, and we're perfectly happy with you doing that. And just another note, all those materials, like these slides, are bilingual. Any language graphics, we have them in English and French. So on the promotional language, so we have both long promotional language that we can give for reaching out to people via email and more short social media language for social media. So language that could fit on Instagram, Twitter, or I guess X, it's called now, Facebook, etc. For the email language, we have one for all the surveys, a sort of general emotional message measurement month, and then one for each individual survey. And then for social media, we have two or three different ones for each survey that lets you use a slightly different tone or emphasize slightly different things, again, depending on your audience. So this would be an example of the promotional language we have. This is an example of short form language for the individual well-being survey. We want to know about the experiences of people living in communities across Northern Ontario. Take our survey for a chance to win a $50 gift card. Provide the link so you can either include it in the text or embed it in your post, however you see fit. And that's another thing worth mentioning. We do have MPI provides some modest incentives for people to participate in these surveys. So for each survey this year, there's three $50 gift cards available. We find that's often a useful incentive. Some people are motivated just to provide information in Northern Ontario to assist with decision making. Some people get some extra motivation from a chance to win some cash. So we find that that's valuable to. And then, like I said, this is an example of the graphics that our graphic design team here at MPI put together. I really like them. As you see, we have some that as you see on this slide, we have some that are bilingual. They're in English and French. We have some that are just English and some that are just French. And if you're a partner and if you're a partner for Measurement Month, I'll send you an email with all the graphics, with all the language, and you can take from um, that list of resources as you see fit. So I guess the last thing to really touch on with potential partners is how you should target and how you should try to promote the survey. So, of course, do what you can with the capacity you have. Everything helps. We know a lot of organizations don't have the capacity to do that detailed follow up with specific groups that I was mentioning earlier, and that's okay. Even if you're just posting one survey on social media or emailing it to 10 people, that's a valuable contribution, and we appreciate that help. So things you can do are sharing materials on social media, add the link to your newsletter, put it on your webpage, direct email it to your email list. And then targeting will vary somewhat for the four different surveys. So two of the surveys are open to everyone in Northern Ontario, and two of them are a bit more targeted. So the individual well-being survey and the experiences with racism survey are open to all individuals. So that's something we're interested in getting responses from everyone in Northern Ontario about this. And I'll emphasize that individuals includes the individuals on this call. It's, anyone in this call is free to take that survey, and I encourage you to. But then the two other surveys, the new arrival survey and the employer survey, are targeted towards specific people and organizations. So with the new arrival survey, this could be a good survey to focus your efforts on if you're a local immigration partnership, a multicultural center, someone who works with, well, new arrivals. Of course, you're not limited to partnering on one survey just on what organization you are, but these types of organizations tend to have the strongest networks for the type of people we're trying to reach. So individuals for the new arrival survey, it's people who moved to a Northern Ontario community within the past 5 years. And like I said, that includes people who came from another Northern Ontario community. So say you moved from like the Timmins, you would still be considered a new arrival in Timmins. Examples would be students from other communities, people using settlement services, even temporary residents in the community. Then for the employer survey, it's not really targeted so much as it's a different audience. We're not trying to contact individuals. We're trying to contact the heads of organizations or businesses that have at least one employee. And and we really mean like any employer. It could be a private sector company in mining or construction. It could be a First Nations organization. It could be a healthcare center. Any employer is eligible to respond to this survey. And partners who tend to find the employer survey most relevant are chambers of commerce, economic development teams, community futures organizations. We find that employer tends to be of great interest to partners, but it's actually the one we tend to struggle the most with responses. I think a big part of that is just the fact that there are fewer heads of organizations than there are people. But if your organization is able to help distribute and promote this survey to local employers, that will, of course, help us boost response rates. It means we can accurately measure the needs of businesses in your community. So that's appreciated. And like I said earlier, we can share some of the local responses with you if that's an added benefit and incentive. And I'll also mention that many of you attending this webinar are employers. Even if you're not officially the head of your organization, you work closely with them, so you're in a good position to promote it. And it doesn't have to absolutely be the head of the organization. Anyone in management or in HR really can do it, but we want people who are, the employers who are involved in the hiring process, so we can get that perspective on what employers need to be more welcoming and to better hire everyone in the community. So that's it for this presentation. I'm very happy to take questions. Hopefully people have some, and happy to talk more about Measurement Month. If you have questions, you can either put your hands up or just speak. It doesn't bother me either way. Hi, Maurice. Do you have a hand up?
Yes, William, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I can access this recorded, what we've just done, and send it to someone for their viewing.
Patrick, you're recording this, right? Or at least someone was.
Yeah, I'm gonna record it. Yeah, and I believe we're gonna send out an email afterwards with the slides and a link to the recording. So you can forward that to whoever you like. Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I got a question in the chat. What would you consider as a good response rate for a community to receive results? We'd be looking at about 20 to 25 for a community on any individual survey. Once you get below that, it can be challenging to have good quality data. And also when you're looking at very small number of respondents, you can get some privacy concerns. So it's just to be safe with data quality and with people's personal information, we want at least 20 to 25. And of course, the more responses you get, the more cross tabs you could have. So, if you were to have 50, 60 responses in your community, we'd be able to make, I guess, more comparisons between questions and between demographic groups that might provide you with a bit more value. But yeah, again, the minimum is about 20, 25. Celine?
Thank you for sharing this information. Is there any way of knowing who else in the community is doing this survey or who is partnering?
So,
for my community, it would be nice to know like who else is a partner so that it could be coordinated.
Yeah, I can. If there are multiple partners in the community, I can definitely put you all in touch. Yeah, I can certainly do that. Jan, do you have a hand raised?
I do. William, what's the timeline? I believe you said February 1st to the 22nd.
Yeah.
Does that mean that you're only running the surveys for that 3-week period? What my role is in workforce development, and we receive new employers all year long. So if we're only running it for that 1 week, we're only catching a certain number of employers. Whereas if we could run that survey several times throughout the year, it would be much more helpful for us.
Okay, so yeah, so in this specific initiative, we're running it just for those 3 weeks. We always do it for those 2-3 weeks in February to get the same time every year. We limit the survey to a specific time for 2 reasons. One, if we run it all year, when there's a lot of partners going on, we really want to be able to focus our efforts on a specific time frame. And two, we need to have time to go through the survey results. Though if you're interested in running a similar survey multiple times throughout the year, we can definitely chat one-on-one after the session. That would definitely be something MPI could potentially be interested in working with your organization on, taking the same survey and and working with Destination Northern Ontario to run it, or something similar a few times a year.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, got a couple more things in the chat. Okay, so I have one. Can you please speak to the measures MPI takes regarding survey collection QA, QC, e.g. ensuring complete surveys, avoiding multiple submissions from the same respondent? Yeah, so our quality assurance practices. So let me just take a minute to think about this. So one thing we do is we do keep an eye definitely on suspicious responses. If we get a response from the same IP address, multiple times within 10 minutes, as we've done before, we account for that. In terms of ensuring complete surveys, we don't have that much on it, but we'll only include the data that we have that people filled out the whole survey. If someone included 2 questions, and we don't really have other data on them, and it's lower quality data, we'll remove that. If you have more specific questions, I'm happy to talk about that. I don't know if you're trying to get at something a bit more specific, but there are quality control practices in place to make sure we're getting quality data, and we're not just getting people spamming surveys for the gift card, which we had some people try last year.
No, that's great. Thanks, William.
Okay, sounds good. So another question. How long will our organization logo be listed on your partners page? So I guess it would be for the year. We make a partners page and we update it every year. So it would so if you're a partner with us for 2024, we put it on in the next couple of weeks, and then we update the list again before measurement month 2025. If you wanted it taken off for some reason, we could certainly do that, but it would be about a year. Celine, is your hand still up?
Nope, more questions. Well,
Okay.
yes, there's still.
Yeah.
Can we ask for custom boundaries to get the data back in?
Yes, we can. So for our, I guess, geographical data, we ask for the first 3 digits of your postal code. We don't like to go more specific because, again, you start to have privacy concerns when you're getting down to like what side of the street do you live on. But as long as your custom boundary can be defined by the first 3 digits of a postal code, we can work with that.
That's great. I have another one. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there a place where we can see the questions that are being asked?
Yes, there is. I will send a PDF copy of all the surveys out along with the promotional materials.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll make sure you see that.
One more question. Has ethics been involved or anything? Have you guys had any ethical considerations? I know, like, to do surveys often you'd need like an ethics approval or anything like that. Has anything like that been done for this survey? So we did do an internal ethics review of the questions to make sure they're minimal risk, and to make sure that there's proportionality between any of the risks involved in some of the more personal or sensitive questions and the value of the research. So we did an ethics review internally when we created them, and then also on a couple of the surveys when we were last year, we did some partnership with universities. So a couple of the surveys have also been through universities' ethics processes as well. So there was definitely some ethics review done on this. And no worries about the multiple questions. I love the engagement. Thanks. Thank you very much.
Okay, got a couple questions. Okay, from Audrey. Est-ce qu'on est obligé d'être partenaire pour aider les sondages? Ne peut-on pas juste repartager? Oui, tu peux juste repartager les sondages. Il n'y a pas une obligation d'être une partenaire très active. Toute l'aide que tu peux nous donner, c'est utile et c'est bien pour l'initiative. Et la deuxième question, c'est est-ce qu'il y a une lenteur sur la langue parlée dans les sondages à venir? Par exemple, en tant que nouvel arrivant, c'est intéressant de savoir quelles sont les langues parlées de ces nouveaux arrivants. Oui, on a une question dans chaque sondage sur les langues parlées. Est-ce que c'est c'est une question sur les langues officielles, votre capacité en anglais, français, et aussi une autre question sur les autres langues que tu parles.
Okay, merci beaucoup, William, and I would like to thank NPI to have had the francophone aspect at the end of your last newsletter about Red Lake, because I submitted the idea of having the percentage of francophone in the different community that you are giving data about it. So it's interesting, like for me as a francophone, like to realize where are the francophones, but I think it's interesting for all the community and all the different partners and businesses and chamber of commerce or community center to realize, okay, there are some francophone over there, so I might be interested in doing specific things.
Yeah, and that's another reason why it can be valuable to partner. The more responses we get, the more likely we can do an analysis specifically of francophones who respond to the survey and not just a general analysis of the community. Est-ce qu'il y a des autres questions? Are there any other questions? Yes, Celine?
I was just wondering, is the data from previous years available anywhere, or can it be requested for surveys that were just done in previous years?
So we have released reports based on a lot of that data about potentially sharing data from previous years. We with new partners, we haven't done that before. We'd have to think about that and discuss that internally, but that's definitely something I can look into and get back to you on.
Great, thank you.
I'll give it just another minute. I know sometimes people need to think a bit before they have questions.
It's David Flood here from Wakoto and Development. We're an organization that's a social enterprise serving 3 First Nations out of the Chapleau area. I'm curious. I'm interested in trying to understand how we might encourage our collaborators, whether it's industry or our own First Nations, or support the municipalities in the region to participate. We do have a bit of an organized EDO group out of calling it Superior East Economic Development Committee, and there is a strategic plan in the region. So we have about 20 people on a call there. Can you explain past performance in how these questionnaires and pooling the data together has gone? Like, what is the reach of this? I'm brand new, so is it just you get what you get and you just broadcast it as far and wide as you can, and then you get the data and that's what you work with? Or is there a good sense of the return rate across the area you service? I don't know if that's I don't know if that's a fair question, but I'm willing to promote it, and I'm really willing to try and understand how to get our communities to participate in the region, both First Nations and non-Indigenous. But yeah, if you could answer that.
Yeah, so I can't comment on I guess what you could say the return on the investment for specific partners, because I don't know exactly how many people contacted. What I can tell you is generally for all 4 surveys, in terms of responses we've gone the last 2 years, we've been able to do one, like a quality analysis for all of what we call the big 5 cities in Northern Ontario. That is Thunder Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Timmins, Greater Sudbury, and North Bay. And we've also been able to do analyses for the Northeast and Northwest of Ontario outside of those major centers. We've also had cases where when we had a more active partner, we're able to do some analysis for a smaller community. For example, on the student survey, we had a more active partner around Hearst and Kapuskasing, so we were able to have higher numbers in that area. So, if we, like I said earlier, if we can get to about 20 to 25 for whatever region or whatever demographic you're interested in, and that's usually doable if you have a relatively active partner, we can provide you with at least data on the individual questions. We may not be able to do really deep dives into responses split by gender or by age, but we can get you some of the high level responses. Does that respond to your question?
Oh, that was great. That was a great backgrounder for me. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for that. Did anyone else put up a hand while I was distracted? No, I got some individual messages and all. That's fine. And of course, I know sometimes people think of questions only 10, 15 minutes after the presentation ends, so you're definitely welcome to email me with follow-up questions, and I know I'll be in touch with some of you. All right, I'll just give it a couple more minutes and see if anyone has more questions, and if not, we can wrap it up soon.
Hey, William, I'll say a couple words. This was a really good session, so thanks very much for your initiative, and I think we had good participation and appreciate how you handled the questions. So good job today, William.
Thanks, Christine. And I'm glad and I was also say I'm glad that we have 30 participants. This is a good, diverse group of people from across Northern Ontario, which I'm very excited about because that's our goal. Like I said at the beginning of the presentation, the goal of this initiative is not just everyone does their own survey in their own community and we can't compare. We get a lot of value from being able to understand, not just how people are doing on, say, individual well-being in one community, but knowing how, are people doing better or worse in one community or another and across time. So I'm very excited with the turnout we've gotten. And I think it'll make it the more people who participate, the more valuable it is for everyone. All right then. Seeing no other questions, I'll bring the meeting to a close for now. But like I said, definitely reach out to me if you have specific follow-up questions. I've made some notes to follow up with some of you, but if I don't get back to you within a day or two, definitely email me because I may have missed something while I was just taking quick notes. And again, thank you for attending and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.